At 10 a.m. on June 15, 2025, Adam Reed, 32-year-old software engineer, visited an old flea market in a quiet suburban neighborhood. While browsing through an assortment of items, he came across a peculiar vintage typewriter. It was an old Underwood model with a rusty frame and a worn-out appearance. The seller, an elderly woman with a distant gaze, insisted that the typewriter was special, though she couldn't explain why. Adam, a collector of rare and unusual artifacts, bought the typewriter for a modest price, intrigued by its history and potential charm. He brought it back to his apartment, excited to restore it to its former glory. As he cleaned the typewriter and examined its keys, he noticed an old, yellowed sheet of paper still inside. It was a single typed page with a strange message: "Write the truth, and it will come to you." On Monday, Adam set up the typewriter in his home office, eager to test its functionality. As he began typing, he felt an odd sensation, almost electric thrill. The keys clicked beneath his fingers. The typewriter seemed to have a peculiar allure, drawing him in with its rhythmic clacking. As Adam typed out random sentences, he noticed that the machine seemed to correct his words, subtly altering them to form coherent and unsettling phrases. Messages on the paper began to take on a disturbing tone, revealing cryptic warnings and ominous predictions about his life. The typewriter's messages grew increasingly personal and intrusive. They detailed events from Adam's past and hinted at secrets he had kept hidden. The typewriter seemed to know things it shouldn't, and Adam began to feel a creeping paranoia. By Tuesday, Adam's unease had turned into outright fear. The typewriter's predictions became more specific and alarming. It began to describe events that had not yet occurred but were eerily accurate. The typewriter's messages also included threats and demands for him to uncover the truth. Adam tried to ignore the typewriter and focused on his work, but it was impossible to escape its influence. He started experiencing disturbing phenomena: unexplained noises, cold drafts, and unsettling visions of shadowy figures. The typewriter seemed to be at the center of it all, and its presence was suffocating. Desperate for answers, Adam researched the typewriter's origins and discovered that it had belonged to a reclusive writer who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The writer's last known work was filled with dark, prophetic writings that had been deemed too disturbing to publish. On Wednesday, the typewriter's influence reached a peak. Adam began to experience vivid, horrifying dreams in which he was forced to confront his deepest fears and regrets. The dreams were so real that he woke up in a cold sweat, feeling as though something was physically pressing down on him. As the day progressed, the typewriter's messages became more urgent and hidden truth, one that he had tried to bury for years. The typewriter seemed to be driving him towards a breaking point, and the pressure was overwhelming. Adam decided to confront the typewriter directly. He attempted to destroy it, but the machine resisted. The typewriter's keys jammed, and its metal parts seemed to move on their own, almost as if it were alive. The more he fought against it, the more intense the disturbances became. By Thursday, Adam's situation had become dire. The typewriter had seemingly taken on a life of its own, and its messages had become increasingly accusatory and violent. The apartment was filled with a sense of dread, and Adam felt as though he was being watched constantly. In a final attempt to rid himself of the typewriter's influence, Adam sought the help of a paranormal investigator. The investigator confirmed that the typewriter was imbued with a malevolent force, possibly linked to the writer's unfinished work and the dark energies surrounding it. The investigator conducted a cleansing ritual, but the typewriter fought back with violent manifestations. The apartment was thrown into chaos, with objects flying around and a chilling presence filling the space. The ritual succeeded in temporarily quelling the disturbances. The typewriter remained a haunting reminder of its dark power. Saturday morning, Adam returned to his apartment, hoping that the removal of the typewriter would restore some sense of normalcy. Despite the museum's assurances, he remained haunted by the events of the past few days. The apartment, though quieter, still bore the marks of the recent chaos: objects out of place, unsettling cold spots, and an overarching feeling of dread. As Adam began cleaning up the remnants of the disturbance, he stumbled upon a small, hidden compartment behind a loose panel in his office. The compartment contained a single sheet of paper, stained with what looked like old ink. It was another message from the typewriter, written in its distinctive style. It read, "You cannot escape the truth. The cycle continues." Panic set in as Adam realized that the typewriter's influence might not be confined to the object itself. The feeling of being watched and the disturbances around the apartment seemed to suggest that something darker was still at play. Monday, Adam's anxiety grew unbearable. The once familiar apartment now felt like a prison, and the sense of being observed was constant. He avoided spending time in the office where the typewriter had been, but the sense of dread seemed to permeate every room. That evening, while trying to relax, Adam noticed an unusual smell: burnt paper. He followed the scent to his home office and found a pile of ash on the floor. It seemed as though the typewriter's messages had been burning themselves into existence. Even without Adam recontacted the paranormal investigator, explaining that the disturbances were continuing despite the removal of the typewriter. The investigator suggested that the malevolent force might have attached itself to Adam's home or even to him personally, due to the nature of the typewriter's influence. On Monday, Adam underwent a rigorous personal cleansing ritual, including meditation, symbolic purification, and a thorough spiritual cleansing of his home. Despite his efforts, the atmosphere remained heavy and oppressive. The sense of being watched only intensified, and unsettling occurrences persisted. Strange noises, flickering lights, and shadowy figures glimpsed in peripheral vision. A breakthrough came when Adam discovered a hidden journal in his apartment, left behind by the previous tenant. The journal detailed similar experiences. An encounter with a cursed object caused lingering effects on its owners. The journal mentioned a possible way to sever the connection with the malevolent force by performing a specific ritual in conjunction with a symbolic act of closure. Tuesday was dedicated to carrying out the suggested ritual. Adam followed the instructions meticulously, which involved writing a letter of closure and placing it inside a protective amulet alongside the remnants of the typewriter. The ritual was intended to sever any remaining connections and protect himself from further influence. Throughout the day, the atmosphere in the apartment began to shift. The oppressive feeling seemed to lift slightly, and the disturbances grew less frequent. Adam felt a cautious optimism, but he remained on edge, knowing that true resolution was still uncertain. That night, he experienced a final, intense vision, a dream in which the malevolent force appeared as a shadowy figure, confronting him directly. The figure spoke in a cold, echoing voice, warning that the cycle of torment was not easily broken and that the consequences of his actions were not yet fully realized. Wednesday marked a day of reflection for Adam. The apartment was quieter, and the lingering sense of dread had diminished. He had taken extensive measures to protect his home and himself, but he remained haunted by the experience. Adam decided to share his story publicly, documenting his experiences in a blog and reaching out to others who had faced similar challenges. Cursed object. His story served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of tampering with items tied to dark histories and the persistent impact of malevolent forces. Adam decided to part with the typewriter, took it to a local museum dedicated to paranormal artifacts, where it would be studied and contained. The museum curator assured him that the typewriter would be kept in a secure, protected environment. Thursday brought a semblance of normalcy to Adam's life. He resumed his daily routine, attempting to put the experience had left him with a lingering sense of unease. He found himself hyper-aware of every creak and groan of his apartment, and his once comfortable space now felt foreign and threatening. During his evening routine, Adam discovered an email from an anonymous sender in his inbox. The email contained a single line of text: "Truth always comes to light." There was no other content, just a chilling reminder of the typewriter's final threat. Unease crept in as Adam wondered if the email was a prank or if it had deeper implications. He checked his security systems but found no unusual activity. Despite this, the email haunted him, and he struggled to shake the feeling that the malevolent force was still lingering. On Friday, Adam decided to take proactive measures to protect himself further. He contacted a local historian specializing in occult artifacts and dark rituals, seeking deeper insight into the nature of the typewriter's influence. The historian explained that objects with dark histories could sometimes project their effects onto their previous owners, and the email might be a manifestation of the lingering present. The historian suggested that Adam perform a series of protective rituals and reinforce the boundaries of his home to ensure no residual effects remained. The rituals included blessings for his space, protective symbols, and a thorough cleansing of any remaining negative energies. As Adam followed the historian's advice, he felt a temporary sense of relief. The rituals seemed to lessen the oppressive atmosphere. The psychological toll remained. The memories of the typewriter's influence and the unsettling experiences continued to weigh heavily on him. Saturday's attempt at normalcy was disrupted when Adam received another disturbing email. This time, it contained a photo of his own apartment, taken from an angle he didn't recognize. The image was grainy and distorted, but it clearly showed his living room. The caption read, "You can't hide from the truth." Panicked, Adam checked his apartment for any signs of intrusion or surveillance. He found nothing unusual and rechecked his security system, which confirmed no breaches. The photo's unsettling nature and the continued threats led Adam to believe that his ordeal was far from over. Determined to find closure, Adam contacted the paranormal investigator again, sharing the recent development. The investigator suggested that the typewriter's influence might be extending beyond physical manifestations and delving into psychological warfare. The investigator recommended a more intensive approach to sever any remaining connections. On Sunday, Adam prepared for another round of protective ritual, this time with added security measures. He hired a security team to monitor his apartment and installed additional cameras. The apartment was fortified with protective charms and symbols, and Adam performed the cleansing rituals. Adam experienced a powerful vision. He saw himself in a dark, twisted version of his own home, where the walls seemed to close in and the shadows writhed. In this vision, the typewriter was the focal point, its keys typing out messages of despair and doom. The vision was so vivid that Adam woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The intensity of the experience left him shaken, but he remained determined to overcome the influence and reclaim his life. Monday brought a new challenge. Adam's workplace began to notice his increased paranoia and distraction. Colleagues and supervisors expressed concern, and Adam's productivity suffered. He struggled to maintain his focus and was haunted by the lingering effects of the typewriter's influence. Realizing that his professional life was being affected, Adam sought psychological counseling. The counselor helped him process the trauma and develop coping strategies. The sessions provided a temporary sense of relief and allowed Adam to address the mental and emotional toll of his experiences. Despite the counseling, the sense of dread occasionally resurfaced. Adam's daily life was marked by moments of intense fear and anxiety, reminders of the typewriter's dark impact. Now Adam had settled into a new rhythm, balancing his work with continued psychological support. The intrusive thoughts and fears had become less frequent, but the residual paranoia lingered like a shadow. However, as Adam returned from work, he found a letter slipped under his door. The envelope was plain, with no return address, but the handwriting on it was unmistakably similar to the typewriter's style. His hands trembled as he opened it, revealing a single line written in bold, archaic script. "The cycle is far from over." The chilling message unsettled Adam. Despite the protective measures and rituals, couldn't shake the feeling that the malevolent force had not fully relinquished its hold. He checked the apartment thoroughly, but everything appeared in order. Paranoia returned, and Adam felt as if he was being watched once more. Thursday brought a new layer of dread. Adam's colleagues at work noticed his growing unease and expressed concern about his well-being. Constant worry about the potential return of the typewriter's influence was taking a toll on his professional and personal life. In an attempt to regain some control, Adam reconnected with the paranormal investigator. The investigator, now deeply invested in Adam's case, suggested that the typewriter's influence might have awakened latent fears or unresolved issues within Adam himself, amplifying his anxiety. They agreed to conduct a more thorough investigation of Adam's apartment, including a detailed energy reading and another round of protective ritual. The investigator believed that addressing any remaining spiritual imbalances might help Adam. The investigation team arrived at Adam's apartment. They conducted an extensive sweep using various spiritual and technological tools to detect any lingering supernatural presence. The team reported that the energy readings were slightly elevated, but not alarmingly so. As the investigation continued, Adam noticed that the team's efforts seemed to stir up a different kind of activity. Shadows moved more erratically, and unexplained cold spots emerged throughout the apartment. It was as if the presence was responding to the renewed scrutiny. The team completed the cleansing rituals with added intensity. They used a combination of traditional and modern techniques to ensure any residual influence was thoroughly addressed. Adam watched as the team worked, feeling a mixture of hope and skepticism. Saturday morning brought a sense of cautious optimism. The apartment felt quieter, and the oppressive atmosphere seemed to have lifted somewhat. Adam was hopeful that the recent efforts had effectively neutralized the lingering influence. However, as the day progressed, Adam received another ominous email. This time, it contained a video clip of his apartment's hallway, showing a brief but unmistakable flicker of movement. The video was accompanied by the message, "You cannot escape the truth." Adam felt a surge of anxiety and disbelief. The video was unsettling, but did not show anything overtly dangerous. He decided to review the security footage from the day, but the video appeared to be edited or tampered with, making it impossible to identify the source of the disturbance. Sunday marked a turning point. Adam, feeling the weight of the ongoing disturbances, decided to take a proactive approach. He reached out to a community of individuals who had experienced similar encounters with cursed objects and supernatural forces. Their shared experiences and advice offered him valuable insights and strategies for coping. Adam learned that while physical manifestations could be contained, the psychological impact often required additional support and understanding. The community's shared experiences helped him recognize patterns and gain a clearer perspective on his own situation. Armed with this new understanding, Adam implemented further measures to protect his mental and emotional well-being. He continued his counseling sessions, practiced mindfulness, and engaged in activities that brought him a sense of normalcy and control. By Monday, Adam's efforts to reclaim his sense of normalcy seemed to be paying off. The disturbing emails and unsettling occurrences had become less frequent. The apartment felt more like a safe space, though the shadows of past events document his experiences and share his story publicly. His blog gained attention, and he received messages of support from individuals who had faced similar challenges. The shared stories and advice provided him with a sense of solidarity and strength. Another day brought a newfound sense of routine and stability to Adam's life. The relentless disruptions from the typewriter seemed to have faded, and the apartment felt more like a home again. He had resumed his regular activities, including work and social interactions, with a cautious optimism. That evening, Adam decided to reorganize his home office. As he sorted through old papers and files, he stumbled upon a small, unmarked box that he had forgotten about. The box was tucked away in a corner of his closet, buried beneath other items. Intrigued, Adam opened the box and found several old photographs, letters, and personal effects from the previous tenant of the apartment. One letter, in particular, caught his eye. It was addressed to the next tenant and contained a cryptic message: "Beware of the truth you seek, for it reveals more than you wish to know." The letter's eerie tone unsettled Adam. He couldn't help but wonder if the previous tenant had experienced something similar to his own ordeal with the typewriter. He decided to investigate further, seeking out records or information about the apartment's past occupant. On Thursday, Adam visited the local archives and historical society to research the apartment's history. He learned that the apartment had a series of tenants, each of whom had left under unusual circumstances. Some had reported strange occurrences, while others had vanished without explanation. Adam's research revealed that one tenant had been a writer who was rumored to have engaged in occult practices. The writer's sudden disappearance and the dark rumors surrounding their work provided a chilling connection to Adam's own experiences with the typewriter. This revelation deepened Adam's sense of unease. The apartment seemed to carry a history of supernatural disturbances, suggesting that his experience might have been part of a larger, unsettling pattern. Next day, Adam received a package at his door, addressed to him, but with no return address. Inside, he found a leather-bound journal. The journal appeared old and worn, with a brass lock that had been forced open. Opening the journal, Adam found detailed entries describing various supernatural experiences. The entries chronicled the writer's descent into obsession and madness, marked by encounters with dark forces and attempts to understand the nature of their influence. The final entries were disjointed and incoherent, filled with disturbing illustrations and warnings. Adam recognized similarities between the journal's contents and his own experiences with the typewriter. The entries spoke of a relentless pursuit of truth and the devastating consequences of seeking Adam decided to confront the history of the apartment directly. He performed an extensive cleansing of the space, using a combination of spiritual and practical methods to remove any lingering negative influences. He also installed additional security measures, including advanced monitoring systems and protective symbols around the apartment. As he carried out the cleansing, he experienced a series of unsettling phenomena. The temperature in the apartment dropped suddenly, and shadowy figures seemed to flicker at the edge of his vision. It was as though the apartment was resisting his efforts to remove its dark history. He continued to document his experiences and share his story with others, emphasizing the importance of understanding and addressing supernatural influence. His experiences had taught him valuable lessons about the nature of fear, resilience, and the unknown. On Tuesday, Adam received a phone call from the museum curator. The curator informed him that the typewriter had been involved in a recent incident. A visitor to the museum had reported experiencing disturbing visions and messages after coming into contact with the typewriter. The curator assured Adam that the museum had taken immediate action to contain the situation and enhance security measures. The typewriter was being closely monitored, and additional protective rituals were being performed to prevent further disturbance. Adam felt a mix of relief and concern. While the immediate threat to his own life had been addressed, typewriter's continued influence on others was troubling. He vowed to stay informed and involved, using his experience to help others understand and navigate similar challenges. Wednesday arrived with a sense of cautious vigilance. Despite the reassurance from the museum curator, Adam remained troubled by the news of the typewriter's continued influence. The sense of unresolved tension lingered, as if the shadows of the past were still reaching into the present. Adam decided to visit the museum to speak with the curator in person. The curator explained that the visitor who had experienced the disturbing visions was a researcher specializing in occult artifacts. The researcher had been studying the typewriter's history and had inadvertently triggered a resurgence of its dark influence. The curator showed Adam the new security measures and additional protective barriers installed around the typewriter. The museum had also engaged a team of experts to perform continuous spiritual and technical monitoring. Despite these precautions, the curator admitted that the typewriter's dark energy seemed to have an unpredictable and persistent quality. Adam was struck by the curator's concern and decided to assist in any way he could. He offered to share his experiences and insights, believing that his first-hand knowledge might be valuable in understanding and mitigating the typewriter's discovery. As Adam returned to his apartment, he found a new item on his doorstep, a small, ornate box with intricate carvings. The box was unmarked, but it bore the same disturbing energy that had accompanied previous objects connected to the typewriter. Adam hesitated before opening it. Inside, he found an old, weathered book bound in dark leather. The book was filled with handwritten notes and sketches, depicting dark rituals, occult symbols, and detailed descriptions of supernatural entities. The final pages contained a list of names and dates, some of which matched the names of previous tenants of Adam's apartment. The book's contents were deeply disturbing. It suggested that the typewriter was part of a larger network of cursed objects, each contributing to a cycle of fear and manipulation. The book also mentioned a ritual intended to seal such objects, preventing their influence from spreading further. On Friday, Adam took the book to the historian he had consulted earlier. The historian examined the book and confirmed its authenticity, noting that it contained references to a dark ritual known as the Rite of Binding. This ritual was designed to contain and neutralize cursed objects by severing their connections to dark forces. The historian agreed to help Adam perform the ritual, but they warned that the process would be intense and potentially dangerous. The ritual required specific components and precise execution, the goal of creating a spiritual barrier, prevent the typewriter's influence from affecting others. Adam and the historian prepared for the ritual by gathering the necessary components: protective symbols, sacred items, and a carefully chosen location. They planned to conduct the ritual in a secluded space within the museum to ensure maximum effectiveness. Saturday was dedicated to the preparation and execution of the Rite of Binding. Adam and the historian arrived at the museum early, setting up the ritual space with meticulous care. The process involved arranging protective symbols around the typewriter, performing a series of incantations, and creating a spiritual barrier to contain its influence. As they began the ritual, the atmosphere grew tense. The typewriter's presence seemed to react to the ritual, causing fluctuations in temperature and eerie, unexplained phenomena. Shadows shifted ominously, and the room felt charged with a palpable sense of dread. Despite the intensity of the experience, Adam and the historian continued with determination. The ritual involved chanting ancient incantations and invoking protective energies. The historian used specialized tools to focus and direct the ritual's power, while Adam maintained his focus on the typewriter, willing a sense of exhausted relief. The Rite of Binding had been completed, and the typewriter was now secured within a protective casing. The museum curator and the historian both expressed cautious optimism that the ritual had been successful in containing the object's malevolent influence. Adam felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. The typewriter's presence no longer felt as threatening, but the experience had left him deeply affected. He had faced a formidable challenge and had worked with experts to address a powerful and persistent force. The museum planned to continue monitoring the typewriter and the ritual's effects, ensuring that no residual influence remained. Adam was encouraged by the efforts to safeguard others from experiencing similar disturbances. Monday marked a return to a more normal routine for Adam. He continued to reflect on his experiences and the lessons learned from his ordeal. The process of confronting and containing the typewriter had been transformative, providing him with a deeper understanding of both supernatural phenomena and personal resilience. Adam resumed his work and personal life, a renewed sense of purpose. He continued to share his story and insights with others, focusing on the importance of vigilance and support in the face of supernatural challenges. His experience served as a powerful reminder of the need for caution when dealing with cursed objects and the impact of psychological and spiritual resilience. The typewriter, now securely contained, remained a symbol of the dark forces that can influence and disturb. Adam's journey had not only resolved the immediate threat, but had also provided valuable insights into the nature of fear, curiosity, and the unknown.